Tom Morello is one of those guitarists that once you hear, you know immediately it's him. One of the reasons that that's the case is because his tone is incredibly simple. So when we think of Rage Against the Machine, when we think about Audioslave, we imagine these big distorted guitars and everything, but that's not the case at all, actually. His tone is known for being more on the cleaner side, actually. This is a very big contrast compared to what was going on back then, especially in the early 90s, late 80s. So Tom Morello is best known for using a Telecaster, though he has been known to use other guitars. That's how he gets those clean neck tones. It's very distinctly Telecaster neck pickup. A lot of guitarists will fall into the trap, and I'm included here, of just going to the volume, going to the tone, setting everything at 100. But he is someone who uses the guitar to the fullest extent. So he uses kill switches, he uses the pickup selector a lot, which I'm not a big fan of, obviously, because it can wreck your guitars. But it gives a very distinctive sound and what he's known for, essentially. Tom Morello is someone who goes out of their way to get a right tone with the instruments that he already has. So he says in some interviews that he uses these guitars not because he prefers them or anything, but because he thinks that the endless tone chasing is what actually gets in the way of you making more music. So in a way, that's actually pretty poetic. So to get his tone, what I use is this Harley Benton Fusion T. It's a fairly cheap guitar as well, which is very in keeping with what he says. You can see it's humbuckers as well, but it has a coil split here on the tone knob, and it's actually pretty good as well. So it does sell the idea that it is actually a single coil guitar. And the reason that's useful as well is because he is known to be using humbuckers as well, and in some songs like Gasoline and What You Are. So it's also helpful for that. The point is that you can get pretty close to his tone regardless of what level of gear you have. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, I'm going to post about the amps and pedals that he uses next week and next Thursday. And if it's already posted, then you'll find it on the cards above. So moving on to the humbucker side of things, we're going to go into what I use to get his tones for that. This is my Gretsch Streamliner, which you cannot see in its entirety here. And to the keen-eyed out there, they might think that yes, it is a Filtertron pickup, but actually it's not. It's one of the Streamliners, so it has Broadtron pickups, which are more closely related to humbuckers. They're quite powerful. They're not very defined as what Gretsch are used to. So this is more in keeping with what he uses there. So like I said, he uses it for songs like Gasoline. He uses humbuckers for songs like What You Are. There are a couple of them. They tend to be the heavier ones when you want just a thick sound instead of a thinner sound. One of the reasons I like Tom Morello so much in Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave is that the heaviness of the band doesn't necessarily come from how much distortion he has on his guitar, but it comes from the way that the band coordinates with each other. So when there's a kick, usually there is the sound of the kick, the sound of the bass, and the sound of Tom Morello hitting it as well. And all of it together create this massive thump that gives these bands their like characteristic heaviness. So another reason that he uses humbucker pickups is because he likes to do this DJ sound, right? You know that he does that in Bulls on Parade. So he basically mutes one of the pickups and then puts the other one on the maximum, and then he switches them like this over and over, which gives you like a sort of a tremolo sound. But I'm not going to do that in this video because I do love my guitars, so that seems quite abusive to them. More than anything though, his gear is quite cheap for the most part, including the amps and pedals, especially if you have a modular, which is what I use anyway. The tone of Tom Morello mostly comes through the way he attacks the guitar. It's very aggressive. So in the songs, it's not so much what pedal settings you have going on. It's more about the way, how aggressive you are with the guitar, essentially. And you can notice that in some of the covers that I've had, which, by the way, they're linked up here as well. So in summary, if you want to recreate Tom Morello's sound, you're going to want a Telecaster of some sort, with a front pickup, single coil ideally, or a split coil like I use in my Harley Benton Fusion T. And for some of the heavier songs, you're going to want a humbucker style, Gibson style guitar with separate knobs for each. You can't see it because of the strap, but there. So separate knobs for the strap. And also, if you can spare it as well, if you're going to be playing in a tribute band of some sort with these bands, maybe a third guitar in drop D tuning is going to make your life much easier as well. So guys, next week we're going to be talking about amps and pedals, and stay tuned, especially if you have a modular, because I know that a lot of us can't afford to have this amp, that cabinet, those pedals and those sort of things. So let's talk about how to recreate it in a modular setting.